Is this thing on? All right, here we go. Good evening, class, and welcome to Binary Gamer. I'm your host, Tony Spears, and this is the show where passionate people talk passionately about that thing we're passionate about, and that thing is video games. So let's get the business out of the way before the snow settles in too deep and we're all dead. But Binary Gamer is a podcast you can get on all of the podcast platforms of your choice, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. We are now on Spotify, so that's a thing as well. If you can listen to a podcast there, you can listen to Binary Gamer. You can also find us over on YouTube. Head over to YouTube or follow the link in either the episode description or the Twitch chat, whichever one suits your fancy. You can follow it over there. Check out the awesome stuff we do over there and watch all of our great content. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And you can follow us over on Instagram or Twitter. Head over to Facebook. All of it is Binary Gamer. All of those links will be in the episode description. And with that out of the way, remember, you can also check us out over on Twitch live every Sunday. Here we are. I know we're a little bit late. The weather's crazy. My kids don't have school tomorrow. I had to get things together. Here we are. Boom, bada boom. Let's get to it. So, let's get into the week that was. So this last week, unless you've been living under a rock, Apex Legends. That's pretty much been it. That's been all of it. I don't have anything else to say. I've played no other games. I've played Clickpocalypse on my phone, or man, I almost said Pandemic. It's not Pandemic. It's oh my gosh. Hold on, I have to look at my phone now so I can get the correct name of this game. Plague Inc. Plague Inc. and Clickpocalypse on mobile. Other than that, I've been playing nothing but Apex Legends, and I'm loving every minute of it. It is amazing. I can't stop playing that game. Like, it is a lot of fun. Granted, I mean, I've still been playing some other stuff here and there, like played some Warframe. I played some more Advanced Wars with my son. That was pretty cool. Just got done giving the hands in some Super Smash Brothers before we came down and recorded this. But for the most part, yeah, just been doing this Apex Legends all day, every day, and it's been a lot of fun. That game, like, the more I play of that game, the more like things I find that I like about it more than other battle royales, and that's making it to where, like, at this point I have uninstalled Fortnite, I have uninstalled PUBG. I'm still gonna dip my toes back in the Rainbow Six Siege periodically, but for the most part, it's all Apex Legends, and I need this game to stay as awesome as it has been, or just get better. So whichever one that turns out to be, that's what we're gonna do. So let's get into the topic of the week. And it's going to be kind of a looser topic. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode because we're prepping for episode 100. It's it. We've done it. We're here now. Episode 100. I didn't think we'd get this far. I figured like the show would be canceled or a comet would have hit the earth or something, but nope, here we are. We're closing in on 100, and to be perfectly honest with you, I'm a little awestruck. And I've said this multiple times throughout the course of this show, and what I can say is, like, I would have stopped a long time ago if I felt like there was nobody listening. If I felt that, like, not a single person was out there, giving a crap about the ramblings that I have to say about video games, I would have given up. I mean, kind of understandably, but I have come to realize that there is a group of people out there that want to hear what I have to say, want to actually partake in this conversation with me, and that is what has been the driving force for me to get this far. And I want to thank everybody that's ever either subscribed to the podcast, checked out any content I've ever made anywhere for that matter, and just stuck around. The ride or die mofos, thank you very much. But with all that out of the way, let's get into this week's topic. And this week's topic is it's a little nostalgic, but also kind of a Well, you'll see. So this week's topic is about gaming communities, and we're not talking like the FGC or like the cult that is us Counter Strike. We're not talking about WoW guilds. We're talking about like ecosystems, like most notably things like Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Steam. These major platforms that have garnered like a cult of personality around them, and why they're important, because a lot of times the success or failure of a online platform can really affect how well, one, a console does in the long term, two, the interest or availability of either developers or publishers that want to go to that platform, and three, the number of like sub communities, I guess you could say, within that ecosystem. So the first one we're going to get into now is Xbox Live, right? So quick primer for this. Xbox Live starts on the OG Xbox back in 2000. And it's weird when I think about that, because I never remember using Xbox Live on the original Xbox. I remember Xbox Live being a real big deal for the 360, and as far as my mind was concerned, that's where it started. But Xbox Live was in a very nascent state early on the OG Xbox, and it was strictly just multiplayer stuff. Like the Xbox Marketplace hadn't been around, Xbox Live Arcade was not even a thing, and it was really just a way to hook up and play people online. But it seemed at the time like more akin to like the internet capabilities of like the Dreamcast than something like completely separate to itself. You didn't think about it as like a closed ecosystem. So later on, 2005, the 360 comes into its own, and it essentially evolves. Xbox Live evolves on that platform to, well, I mean, to what it kind of is now, to be honest with you. And it's crazy to think, because you look at where Xbox Live is now through all the different iterations that it's gone through, in the different like the different like front ends that you've gotten, from like the blades, which were infamously horrible, and then like different types of like menu options and different UI, and like then you had avatars come up, and everyone's like, oh man, I can dress my avatar, and people for some reason were spending money on avatars. I don't know, it made no sense to me either. But like, I mean, look, I'll admit it, I used some leftover Microsoft points to buy my avatar a Giants jersey. That was it. But for the most part, it's like you're going there to buy games. And one of the things that was really cool about Xbox Live at the time was the fact that you could play demos there. You could download demo versions of full games. And a lot of times, unless they specifically made a demo for the game, you were more so dealing with like a slice of the beginning of the game, like, so it was pretty much the whole, like, it was pretty much like the fleshed out beginning of the game, but it was just like, it would just come to a cutoff at some point. I remember a lot of games, like, you download a demo of it, and you'd be going through and playing through, and you'd be like right in the thick of the action, and then suddenly it would just like fade out and be like, oh man, go and get the ciao bella, hey, what is up, how you doing, Lorenzo? But yeah, so you were like cut off of the game, and like it's kind of a messed up tactic at some point, but you're also looking at it like, oh man, I need to get my hands in this game, because like it's a really good, like, put the carrot out there and reel it in, and yank it away from you at the last second. And it drove me to get more than a few games. So I mean, it obviously did its part. One of the things that I specifically remember with Xbox Live is being Xbox Live Arcade. And Xbox Live Arcade was rad for a number of reasons. Primarily because you got all these games you weren't going to get your hands on anywhere else. Like, this is where Cave Blazers comes from. There's so many games that came out there first, and it was really cool because you'd have like events like Summer of Arcade, and then all of a sudden you have this like roll in of different software is coming in, like Mark and the Ninja. Shank started out there. Man, there were a lot. Castle Crashers was another one. I remember they had Jetpack Joyride on there, and I thought that was super cool. Like, for some reason, I bought the coin doubler on the Xbox Live Arcade version of Jetpack Joyride because I was like, I want Santa's sleigh. That's the jetpack I want, and I want to be able to fly around in Santa's sleigh whenever I get the money bird, or is it the piggy bank? I can't remember, but one of the power ups. And it was really cool because then you start getting friends on there, right? And you start your friends list, and then that's where over time this develops. You got to think about the fact that the PS3 and the Xbox 360 lasted a lot longer than any other console generation, like way harder. And at that point, you need to start thinking about like how you're going to foster that family. Ooh, it looks like some people are having trouble with the stream. I'm not dropping frames. Well, 0.2% drop frames, so there's a little bit of lag. So if you're in the chat and things seem slow, I apologize. Yeah, it's I think there's a buffer for the chat coming through to me seeing it and my reaction. So if you put something up in chat or a question or something like that, I will get to it, I promise. But to those that are in the chat right now, hello. But let's get back to it. So, like, you build this friends list and you're going and building, like, you're nesting up. You're building this community in there. And over the course of a 10-year console lifespan, that friends list gets pretty big. So when you're looking at like the time and not just time, but the money and the people that you're invested in this ecosystem, it's easy to see how, like, the second coming of the console wars came around, where people are like, no man, it's Xbox Live all day every day, and then you have people on the other side of the fence that are like, no, freaking PS3 till I die, throwing up gang signs and stuff. Like, it gets crazy, but it does make sense though, because they're so invested in it. That's where they are, that's where their digital lives live. And then of course you have people on PC that are like, huh, peasants, I'm over here on Steam with my 60 FPS, and everyone's like, oh no, but that's beside the point. But Xbox Live did build a lot. Now, I was lucky that at one point I had a reasonably powerful computer. But I say reasonably because one year my wife decided to splurge, and for my birthday she got me an Alienware laptop, and I thought I was the coolest kid ever. So I had a pretty good laptop. I had a Xbox 360 that was gifted to me by Cataclysmic, because he bought a new Elite and he gave me his old Elite. I think he bought the black Elite version, and he gave me his like base. I can't remember. No, I ended up with the Elite. Anyway, I had a 360 at one point, and then due to, I love telling this story. So I moved in to a house in Phoenix, Arizona, and then I started a cable package with Cox Cable, who is a subsidiary of Time Warner. They had a promotion going on that if you signed up for 3 years of their service, internet, TV, and all that jazz, you got either your choice of a PS3 or a Xbox 360. At the time, the PS3 was still pretty pricey. You're talking like $500. It had just come down quite significantly from the original $700 price point. So I was in Iraq at the time, and my wife, being the genius that she is, was like, which one do you want, PS3 or 360? At the time, I didn't have the PS3, or sorry, I didn't have the 360, but I was like, get the PS3, it's way more expensive. So she got it for me, and it was awesome. I was so happy to get it. I took it back to Iraq with me. I played numerous seasons of MLB The Show. It was a good time. But when like a series of events happened and we ended up having to move, well, because of a clause that the military is allowed to utilize, I was able to cancel the contract with no fees or anything like that prematurely, like 9 months into the contract, and I ended up keeping the PS3. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. I really couldn't complain. But regardless, at one point I had all three, and I can honestly say that where I dug in the deepest was definitely PlayStation. And that was mostly because at the time I liked the Xbox because of like the Gear series, Halo obviously. There were a lot of exclusives and stuff on there, but I saw that a lot of the friends that I had were playing the same games that I had on 360 on PS3. So I ended up migrating over there. And then I'm also a big fan of like JRPGs. Like I do like shooters now more than I did before, but like I really like JRPGs. A lot of the Sony exclusives I really liked, things like Uncharted, the God of War games, a lot of different ones, a lot of different games that I can't think of off the top of my head. But regardless, that's kind of where I dug in. But I always went back and played games with my friends on Xbox Live, and I remember countless nights of playing World at War and Black Ops with my cousins, and like sitting there, two Xboxes, two people per TV, grouped up, squad up together and playing team deathmatch or domination and just wrecking shop and having a great time. So I do have great memories of Xbox Live. But the thing that I always remember is Xbox Live Arcade, because I remember so many games coming to it and just being like, man, there's a lot going on here, like as far as like the different games they had, like, and they were cool little, not like micro games, but they were smaller experiences. That was cool. I always thought that was really neat. One of the things I think is really interesting is the fact that Xbox Live is coming to the Switch soon. And I think this is smart for two reasons. One, Nintendo is at the point now to where it makes more sense for them to integrate a different social service into Nintendo Switch Online. Because to be perfectly honest, they never got good at it before, and they haven't gotten good at it yet. It's really bad. It took me 15 minutes to figure out how to add somebody on Nintendo Switch Online. Like, friend codes don't make any sense to me. The way they do it now doesn't make any sense. It's so easy in something like Xbox Live or PlayStation Network. You just put in the person's name, you verify it, it's good to go. I don't understand why Nintendo can't do that. But like I said, it's smart that they're bringing Xbox Live over there, because Nintendo and Xbox have been doing this play nice buddy thing for a while now, and it's good for both of them. But it's primarily good for Xbox because it gives them a good like second outlet to work into, especially in Japan, because Microsoft is not popular in Japan at all. So if they get their foot in the door in Japan, where Nintendo reigns supreme, then that helps them in the long run. It also helps Nintendo because it gives them a pre-built, sustained, and proven social platform for video games. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Nintendo. Nintendo's always going to be the king of couch co-op, undoubtedly. Like, I have not had as much fun playing video games with my kids as I have with the Wii, the Wii U, and the Switch, and the various other platforms that I've had over the time. But at the same time, like, they don't understand that the online portion of that system is so archaic. So I think this is going to be a good thing for both Nintendo and Microsoft. But let's move on to PlayStation Network. So PlayStation Network, this one, there's a lot to be said here. A lot to be said, and we're going to get to probably the biggest portion of it. So originally starts out on the PS2, very basic functionality. You had to get the network adapter, which, if you aren't aware, was one of the hardest to find and biggest pain in the asses to get your hands on. But if you could, it was great. If you couldn't, sucks to be you, and you weren't going to be playing SOCOM online with people. But that went on, and then finally it really did blow up and developed into something decent come the PS3, where now you can buy games online. Both Xbox Live and PlayStation Network during the PS3 era sort of open up the world to, hey, guess what? You don't have to go to the store to get these games anymore. You don't even have to order them online if you don't want to. You can get it straight to your hard drive. And people are like, what? And just blows people's minds, right? And it's really cool. Then later on, they go through and they introduce PlayStation Plus. Xbox Live has done games with gold. Again, this is ways to keep people hooked in, ways to keep people in these ecosystems. And it's important on both fronts. Mostly because Sony had to do a big make good, a real big make good, come 2011, because that's when the 23-day outage of PlayStation Network happened. So if you're not aware, April 20th, 2011, for 23 days, PlayStation Network is down. Doesn't work, can't log in. Like, your PlayStation works fine, but there's a huge data breach in Sony's back end, no pun intended, and this becomes a major issue because the other thing that drew a lot of people to Sony for PlayStation Network was the fact that it was free. Free friends list, free online play, free voice chat, all of it was free. With Xbox Live, you paid, I believe it was $30 a month, and so like regular, not paid, was Xbox Live Silver, which you could have a friends list, and I think you could chat online, but you couldn't group with people in games. I believe that was it. And then you have Xbox Live Gold, which gave you like everything that you see in Xbox Live now. But PlayStation Network at the time didn't have any of that because they were like, no, we have to be competitive because we came out the gate telling people to get a second job to buy our console. So we decided, hey, we're going to make it free so it's more appealing. Well, it was appealing, especially to hackers. And they went in and got a whole bunch of people's private information and like a couple credit card numbers, and it was bad. But on the inverse, it also taught Sony a valuable lesson because they learned that their online infrastructure was not up to snuff, was not prepared for the big bad world of the 21st century and the internet. And if you make enough people mad on the internet, they'll find a way to make you pay. So they went through as a big overhaul, and then later on when they start to implement PlayStation Plus, it's a paid service. You get some benefit out of it, but now they're getting money. They're getting a cash roll in order to beef up their infrastructure. And now with the PS4, you have to pay just for basic online services anyway. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you're not paying out the nose. Like, you can pay, I believe it's $10 a month for PlayStation Plus, and that's kind of a steal in the long term. It's 10 or 20, I can't remember. Or you can do 60 for the year, and then you're good to go. Same thing with Xbox Live. But the thing that I always liked about Sony was about the PlayStation Network is about the fact that it carried over from other consoles. So from the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, they had a lot of compatible games that came forward. And that was really good for a guy like me that had invested a lot of money and invested a lot of time and had built up a friends list because I still had games I wanted to play. And then you also, when PlayStation Plus comes out, you start getting deals on PS3 games, which you can play on the PS4, some PS4 games, which is really nice, and then the Vita. Now, we all know the story of what happened to the Vita, but at the same time, it's important to remember that the Vita did big things for Sony in an online space. Why they stopped supporting it is beyond me. I don't know. It made so much sense. It was a good, solid piece of hardware. It's way more powerful at the time than what it needed to be. And it had so much potential. Like, I played so much Dragon's Crown on that thing. And it just blows my mind that just they decided one day to like, yeah, you know what, guys? We're done. Just cut rope, pack up shop. We're done here. It's really irritating because, you know, you have this service in PS Plus and in the PlayStation Network that now all of a sudden had 3 branches, and now all of a sudden is down to 2. It feels like someone's cutting one of your legs off, and you're like, well, I have a lot invested here. Like, I want my PlayStation Plus games. I want to be able to play with people online. I want to be able to use this thing in a, you know, be something other than a paperweight. And that does suck because, I mean, you're not, I don't know, like, it seems like with a lot of these online services now, I mean, at one point they really realized that the consumer was their bread and butter, but at some point they started pulling things back because I guess they feel like they gave us too much. So at some point they're just like, no, you know what, man, that's enough. We'll take that back. And it's like, come on, really? Like, Xbox Live did that with Xbox Live Arcade. That went the way of the dodo. The Vita stops getting support, so developers stopped making games for Vita. Sony stops making first-party games for Vita. The Vita ends up, extinct. And then you have things like PlayStation Plus, where it's working its way through, but at the same time, it's like now I feel like I'm getting less for my money because the price hasn't changed. In fact, the price has gone up, but I'm not getting as much now. It doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't seem like a good, risk reward, good trade-off. One thing that I should mention as well is that when it comes to the communities that you're developing here, a lot of it becomes taste over availability, because like people want to play what they want to play. They play the types of games that they like, and they gravitate toward the consoles that have those games. Now, obviously, with PC being a factor in there, that makes it to where you kind of have this like three-pillar thing of, I go to Xbox for my shooters, I go to PlayStation for my RPGs, and I go to PC for everything else. And it's weird that it kind of plays out that way, but in a lot of people's heads, that's how it is. And it's really strange because you see a lot of people that when a new Call of Duty comes out, it's automatically assumed, hey, me and my friends on Xbox Live are going to get down when this game comes out. Same thing with Destiny, for example. But then you have a lot of games that live so more vibrantly on Sony than they ever would on the Xbox. For example, like fighting games. Street Fighter V has a huge built-in base on the PlayStation 4, whereas it's not nearly as much on the Xbox. And actually the Xbox has fewer than PC. PC is starting to make a rise when it comes to fighting games, but for the most part, a lot of it is PlayStation. Same thing with Dragon Ball FighterZ. A lot of your anime fighters come out on PlayStation. And it's weird when you start thinking about those contingents. You start thinking about those different like ecosystems. Like I said, I know I'm using that word a lot, but it's true. Like you have to look at like biomes. You know what I mean? Like not to sound derogatory, but like imagine like Xbox is a swamp and like PlayStation Network is like a desert with some life. That's a bad one too. But we'll say like the Pacific Northwest, sure, and then like the Steam and the PC ecosystem is like just this like roiling sea that wants to eat you up and devour you. And then you have Nintendo that's like this. It's like the Shire. It's real tiny. It's very idyllic, but there's things outside it, and you kind of want to see those things, but at the same time you're scared to go out there. That kind of thing. And it seems to me like a lot of people just kind of get stuck in those ecosystems, and I don't think that's a good thing, because you have to branch out. Now that's coming from a guy who has forsaken all of his consoles at this point and invested mostly in the PC, because at this point I realize I play with more people on Steam or on various other online platforms through PC than I ever did in PlayStation Network. But regardless, it's like I said, it's interesting to me that these ecosystems bring in some really like diehard fans into the fold. You know what I mean? Like if you're a hardcore freaking Madden or Call of Duty player, you're probably gonna be over on Xbox. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't say anything bad about you. It's just that they're not really gonna have the same contingent on PlayStation. Whereas like if you're the kind of person like me that likes playing, RPGs, or you like playing more, I don't want to say tactical games, but I played a lot of Battlefield on PS4. But regardless, you might gravitate more toward PS4. Or if you like playing Smash Bros. Online, then yeah. It's just weird, because it seems like anymore a lot of these things are being overshadowed by the fact that there's so many different platforms on PC now. When you look at, you got Steam, the Epic Games launcher, the Ubisoft launcher, Origin, GOG, freaking Humble Bundle. There's so many different launchers now on PC that it makes it to where it's like, well, I mean, what am I really doing over here on console? Now, granted, the barrier for entry for consoles is much lower than it is on PC, so that that limiting factor of not as many platforms to choose from is offset by the fact that you can plop down $300 and get yourself a PS4 or an Xbox, and that's that. Like, you get your games and you're good to go. Whereas with PC, like, due to circumstances outside of my control, I'm gonna have to replace the USB ports in the front of my computer because my kids are playing a little rough with it. But I mean, that's just life. That's a PC. Plus, this thing's getting long in the tooth anyway. I'm probably due for an upgrade, and that's where you start rolling into the fact that it's like, well, I got a lot to invest into this computer as opposed to a console, and that's another thing that draws people into those ecosystems. I think it's really cool though that you look at, you know, where Xbox Live started on the original Xbox, where PlayStation Network started on the PS2, Steam in its very nascent days, Nintendo, the Nintendo Network just trying so hard, so very hard to be something resembling an online service. And I mean, with Nintendo Switch Online, they're actually starting to get into the fold. And this is what I think is crazy, is the fact that it took till 2019 for Nintendo to be like, you know what, we should have a paid model for our online service. And then, wait, bear with me, Reggie, bear with me. We put games on it. And the crowd goes wild. It's like, it's the reverse of that meme where, you know, the boss is like slamming his hand down and he's like, how do we get more kids to play on Nintendo? And, you know, one person's like, re-release Super Mario Brothers 3, put friggin' Scribblenauts on the Switch. And the guy in the back is like, put games online? And instead of throwing him out the window, they like promote him, or they throw the old boss out the window or something. I don't know. But like, regardless, it's pretty much that meme. Because at first they were like, oh, we're going to make it free. And it's like, I think we saw this before once. That's not a good idea. Shouldn't do that. And as weird as it sounds, as weird as it feels to say that, of like, hey, should I possibly pay these guys as opposed to using their free service? I'd rather pay, because then I feel like I'm getting value out of it. Like, it's strange when you look at like Steam. You don't pay for Steam. You don't pay for a subscription to Steam, but you're going to pay for everything you get through Steam. So in that way, you're still getting that money back, and Valve is always going to use that money to better their service, to pay the developers and publishers, and to make sure that Steam works. With something like PlayStation Network, with no money coming in, Sony's only getting the money from, you know, like regular sales of games from consoles and things like that, but that's it. So then you don't have anything to back up that back end. Let's see, Catatonic says it feels like Apple. Oh my god, this is so innovative. Games given out for paying a monthly fee. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, and Apple's trying to get in. Thank you, Catatonic. I appreciate that. And yes, like now Apple's wanting to get into this paid subscription game model, and it's like, why is this now suddenly a thing? I mean, granted, like the cult of iOS and the cult of Android have been around forever, and the funny thing is that people will pay for a subscription service on iOS, whereas people on Android are like, that's okay, I'll just bootleg this game. And I mean, and it just is that. And it's funny because it's true, but it's just one of those things you look at and you're like, well, this is the thing. Congratulations. You're paying for stuff on this iPhone. I'm just going to get that same game for free over here. So, hey, I don't know how that's going to work for Apple. I actually didn't do too much research into that, but you just reminded me that, yeah, Apple announced that they're toying with the idea of a paid service, like game service, I guess is the way I'm looking at it. A subscription-based game service. Gosh, I couldn't get those words out for some reason. But yeah, it's ridiculous to me. But yeah, Nintendo Switch Online makes sense, but the thing is they're going about it in a really weird way, because all anybody wants, and you know, it has to be frustrating. I imagine it has to be frustrating for Nintendo, but all anybody wants from Nintendo is for them to put their old games on the newest hardware. And that sounds so reductive, because like the games they're making now are amazing. Like, I mean, Mario Odyssey is probably one of the best Mario games ever. Smash Brothers is amazing. Splatoon 2 is an incredibly fun game. You have Octopath Traveler, which is an amazing RPG, especially on something like the Switch. which very portable. You have Breath of the Wild, all these great games that have come out for this platform, and all people really want is just the Game Boy 2.0. They want to be able to play Super Mario World, Link to the Past, Super Mario Bros. 3, F-Zero, Mega Man X, all those games in a portable fashion, and people want to pay for that. People don't want to pay Nintendo to be like, oh, I want my online service with my friends, and I want to do this, I want to do that. No, they want Pokemon on a 60 FPS screen, and that has to be frustrating for Nintendo because they want to innovate, they want to do new things, and those new things do pan out for them. It's not like they don't. It's funny to me that so many people are like, okay, cool, but when is the Virtual Console coming out? Like that's the question. It's very much that like, Link to the Past, am I gonna get some Super Metroid? Like that has to be frustrating. Because the bad thing is, I fall in that camp too. I fall in that camp of people that are like, I just want to be able to download old games onto this. That's it. I mean, people just want to pay Nintendo for a really pretty emulator is what it really comes down to. And like I said, that has to be irritating. But I do like the model that they're going with. What the paid model, where it's $20 for the year, and it's like you can play online, and we're going to give you a handful of games throughout the year, and that's it. And it's like, all right, that's cool. Like it's $20, that's fine. Like you pay $60 a year for PlayStation Plus, or I think it's 65 or something like that, or 60 for games with gold through Xbox Live. It's like, you know what? Just okay, all right, Reggie, you can have my money, which also gives you access to other things and other games, and that's fine. I just think it's really funny though, because so many people just want that. They just want that old game machine, and that's why, not to get off topic, but since this is brought up, I was actually talking with somebody about this earlier this week. I feel like Xbox Live coming to the Switch is a sign that Nintendo or Microsoft want to back out of hardware. I don't have anything to base this off of. I don't have any hard facts. There's no stories out there. I have not had a face-to-face interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé. But I feel like a move like this, should it pan out for Nintendo in a positive way, gives Nintendo a legitimate reason to out. And I don't know how people would feel about that, because I don't know if I would feel okay with playing Nintendo games on Microsoft hardware. I know that sounds dumb, but it would feel strange to me. And I'm not talking like, getting an old Xbox, throwing RetroArch on the hardware, and playing a bunch of emulated games on it. I'm talking like first party developed and supported and architectured games on there, like playing a new Mario game or even an old Mario game that is meant to be on Microsoft hardware would feel really weird. I don't know how I feel about that, but like I said, that's completely aside. I'm probably just blowing smoke out my butt at this point, but I'm just saying it's always a possibility. In fact, I'm going to call the prediction now. Something weird is going to happen. I didn't say with what, but something weird is going to happen. All right, and then that brings us to Steam. And Steam might be the platform most indicative with like getting your games into place. A lot of people look at like PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, and it's like, this is where all my games live. No, my friend. Don't know if you know, but Steam is the bucket. That is like, this is the basket all the eggs are in, or were at one point. Now there's a lot of friction going on, and it's actually, this is an instance where it's causing a lot of people grief, because as much as it pains me to say it, everybody wanted Steam to have it all, mostly because it's easy. And what's the phrase? Give me convenience or give me death. Where imagine you could have every PC game you ever played, and they're all in one place. That was the beauty of Steam. They were all there. But then it started to become difficult for competition to take place anywhere else. I mean, you had like Humble Bundle, which really was giving you Steam keys anyway. And then you had GOG. And GOG was really just for older games. And like Steam didn't want to partake in that, and that's fine. Because Steam wants the newest and hottest so they can, fund the international and get to it. And that's great. Yeah. That's where most of the money is going, if we're being honest. That and Gabe Newell sells one knife from his collection every year, and that's where the pot for the freaking international comes from. But regardless, Humble Bundle was dealing in older games a lot more, and that's good because like you wouldn't be able to find those anywhere else. I found a copy of Arcanum of Steel and Magic Obscura on GOG for $10. Made my day. Love that game. If you haven't played it, go and find it. It's really good. But regardless, like Steam is where all that stuff lived at one point. And the funny thing is I can even get that game to execute through Steam because Steam will allow me to bring it into their launcher so I can execute it through there. So I can just have the hub of all my games that are on my PC in one place. But recently, in recent months, that started to go away because a lot more competition now is coming to other platforms. And this is good and this is bad. And I'll explain why. It's good because it varies out the market and it creates competition and pressures both platforms, or pardon me, both competitors to up their game, to make it more appealing to the consumer. It's bad because in the early stages of this, we're getting things like the Metro Exodus situation where people had pre-ordered on that console, on that particular service, but because the publisher decided they wanted to jump ship and go to the Epic launcher, now the freaking development team is getting hate mail. And they're even saying that, look, man, if you want to boycott and freaking review bomb our freaking game, that's cool. We just won't do it on PC anymore. That's not good news for anybody. So now we're at the point where it's like, well, what do we do? Well, we should probably just shut up and just, take our lumps. But instead, people are getting angry and lashing out on the internet. Who saw that coming? But I think with Steam, it was a matter of someone creating a service that appealed to so many people on PC, because before you're getting your hard disk and you have your optical media, your CDs and stuff like that. And back in the day, for these big games, you have multiple CDs, or maybe if you're really fancy and you have a Blu-ray player, a Blu-ray drive, you have a fewer discs, but you're still swapping discs to install games, all that. And then Steam comes along. It's like, no. Listen. Shh, listen. It's all right here. Just give us your credit card information and you can have the games. And people are like, what? Mind blown. And it just freaking takes off. Now, the thing that kills me is the stable release of this whole thing comes out, February 2nd? No, sorry. So the initial release was 15 years ago. Man, that is crazy. 15 years ago, September 11th, 2003. That's madness. That's weird to think that my Army career is almost as old as my Steam is older than me in the Army. That's actually nice to know. But regardless, it's crazy to me to think that over that time it took this long for a major competitor to come in. And the funny thing is, I don't even have that big of a Steam friends list. Steam wants you to have a friends list in Steam and use their Steam chat and all that stuff, but Steam doesn't care. All my friends online are through Discord. And that's the weird thing about it, is like you have things like Discord and TeamSpeak, Skype, and stuff like that allow you to communicate in these games to create that community that you wanted. But Steam is just a platform that you execute the games through, and so it becomes a combination of these different platforms and these different services that allow you to create that ecosystem on the PC. That's why it's so much more complicated when you're looking at the all-in-one concept over here with PlayStation and the all-in-one concept over here with Xbox, but then there's so many different parts and places, so many branches to the tree when it comes to PC. It's crazy to me. And it's weird because when you look at us as gamers, you look at people that came up early in this particular generation, if you will, of gaming. We really are shaped by the communities that we took part in. I mean, there are people that have been playing Counter-Strike since Counter-Strike, and and they live in that community online. And you have people that have just been, mad skills Call of Duty or Madden forever, and that's the little the subculture, the little microcosm they live in within that ecosystem. And it's all about where you planted those roots first. And I think it's really cool because it shows that there is some level of familiarity, wanted or requested inherently by gamers. It's like, no, this is nice to me. I want to do this thing. I don't want to keep hopping around. This is nice. This is where my friends are. We all play in this jungle gym. F you guys over on the swings. And I think that's pretty cool. Like I said, the title of this episode is the communities that shape us, and I think it's interesting to look at think about how you came up in games. Like maybe you did hop ship at one point. I did. I went from Xbox Live to PlayStation Network. I was PlayStation Network for a long time, and then I just kind of put all my eggs into the PC basket, and that's where I stayed. Some people will never do that. Some people will just decide to stick with Xbox Live because that's where all their homies are that they want to play Madden with, or Call of Duty, or freaking Gears of War. Like that's where all their friends are, and that's cool. That's perfectly fine. But that also shapes who we become as gamers, and I think that's pretty cool. It's cool to think that it's a matter of like what school you went to. Like, oh man, did you go to PSN? 1925. It's like public school district or something like that. I can't remember, but regardless, it really is it's like area codes. It comes down to like repping your set. And that's neat. That's pretty cool. And I think that is where we are going to leave this particular episode. So, once again, this is it. Final countdown time, kids. We're at episode 99. It's episode 99. Oh my god, that's crazy to me. It is so cool. Ah, man, I cannot wait for next week. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have a special show. I'm going to put it out there like really, really early. I want to get as many people in here as possible. I kind of want to do an AMA type thing to get as many people as I can in here to ask questions and stuff like that. Regardless, we're going to go over the entire story of Binary Gamer and how the whole thing came to be. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be the historyest of history classes. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. I want you to be there. It's going to be amazing. So, all right, let's actually close this show out. So, thank you very much for listening. Remember, Binary Gamer is a podcast you can listen to in all the places you get your podcasts, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Podcasts, Spotify. We're over there too. If you can listen to a podcast there, you can listen to Binary Gamer. Remember, head over to YouTube, search Binary Gamer, check out the stuff that we do over there. Subscribe to the channel. You can check out all of our Twitch archives. You can check out the different content that we do. The Binary blog is going to be getting more frequent. I was just kind of doing that in the days, filling in whenever we didn't have content going on, but now I decided I'm going to start doing it more often. And yeah, subscribe over there, and yeah, all that good stuff. You can also find us over on Twitter and Instagram as Binary Gamer. All the descriptions will be in the episode description. All the links will be in the episode description of this episode. And of course, you can find us over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Binary Gamer. And you can find us every single week here, Sunday nights, talking about video games, learning new stuff, having a discourse, discussing what makes them so great, and learning along the way. That is what we're here for. That has been the mission statement of this show since day one. We play, we learn, we appreciate. And yeah, that is going to do it. Episode 99 in the books. Oh man, feels good. Feels good, man. All right, so that is going to do it for this week. Again, thank you very much for listening. Have an awesome week. Go play some games, kids. Class dismissed.